Hey.
StockX, but try to offer the same price.
All right, so I'm curious about something. So, being that you're a multifaceted artist, did you start with violin first or with singing first?
So I actually started with piano.
Oh, with piano.
first.
Okay. All right.
I started with piano first, and I have really severe ADHD. So I'm pretty sure I was like ding, 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 ding. When I was maybe like 2 or 3. My parents are very, I don't know what the word is, but they're go-getters. They're like, we want you to be successful.
Oh, right,
All right,
exactly.
thanks, Mom and Dad. No, I appreciate it, though.
Uh-huh.
But they were like, all right, my 2-year-old, let's enroll her in piano. I'm like, I'm 2. I don't even freaking remember this at all. And then I guess when I was 3, they took me to the DSO, and they asked me to point out an instrument that I wanted to learn. And I guess I kept looking, and I'm looking, and then I heard a song, and then I pointed to the violin.
Oh, nice.
After the song. So I started that when I was 3.
You started when you were 3. Wow.
Yeah.
And how old were you when you decided to start with the singing?
Oh, man. So I've always done some singing, but I wanted to stay in the background for a really long time. I was very self-conscious about it. I used to have this thing where I would tell people, in order for them to hear me sing, turn around and face the wall and don't look at me, and then you can hear me sing. And at some point, Kevin Christian, shout out to him, he plays at the Willis Show Bar as well. But him and Hugo Biggs, they actually are my 2 mentors. They forced me to kind of get out of that and stop telling people to go in a corner and just listen to me. Because that's really freaking weird. And B, it's like, why are you sending me into punishment? They're literally like, why are you putting us into punishment just to listen to you? I don't understand. I was like, I never thought of it that way. Holy shit. So, yeah.
That's what's up. So, how is your journey? I just want to hear about your journey. Like, how did you get into, performing and everything like that?
Oh, man. Again, shout out to Kevin and Hugo. So, there was a moment in time that I had where I was working on, I mostly did classical music or, musicals and things like that, and I really wanted to break out of that. It felt like, it's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. I still love musicals. I love Disney. Okay?
Nothing wrong with
Huge
it.
fan. Hamilton, In the Heights, whatever you want to call it. But I needed to get out of that because it was becoming too mundane for me at the time. And when I wanted to do that, I didn't know how. So Kevin and Hugo actually really encouraged me because at one moment in time I wanted to give up music. Mm-hmm. I definitely wanted to. Not even just because of that, but I was in a relationship that didn't allow me, or I let it not allow me work on music because of their insecurity, unfortunately, in the music industry. Because it is, mostly men in the music industry.
Oh, yeah.
And cutthroat.
Yeah, it's very cutthroat. And so they were not comfortable. And I was like, well, I just want to be a really good girlfriend and wife and whatever. And that's not key, ladies, at all. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. No, and guys, too. Don't, if you have a talent, please, let
Agreed.
it grow. Let it grow and feed it with you and your heart and soul. But yeah, I started to step away, and then I ran into Hugo Biggs, and he was in a studio session of a friend of mine, and the friend of mine was like, you can come in and just listen. I would go in and just draw. I was just going to draw for it to be therapeutic. Mm-hmm. But as it turned out, Hugo was in there, and he's like this rapper who's like a bigger guy, has a baby face, but as soon as he starts rapping, you're like, who the hell are you? Whoa! I was so impressed. And so he wanted to hear more about my story, and so I kind of told him, I was like, well, I guess I do this, and I guess I do that. So he took me to this studio called, it's not there anymore, unfortunately, but Tapwater Productions. And I don't know if you guys know Dylan Wade, I think, maybe. Oh, well, he's dope. He looks kind of like Jesus, but he's not. He's not.
Got the Jesus flow?
Yes, no, the hair, the clothes, everything. We used to tell him that all the time. He's actually he'll do mixing and mastering now, but he does it just at home, and he's in the wilderness somewhere. We don't know where the hell he is. So we send him our stuff, so it's cool. But yeah,
got the Rick Rubin thing
going
with it.
He's so cool. Dude is so sweet. But yeah, Hugo had set up a studio. He used to do this all the time. We call him our music godfather because he would set up studio time, and he kind of tricked me. I thought it was for him, and I thought I was just kind of helping him. And he goes, no, this is your time. Like, this is your turn. I go, I don't even know what the hell to do with myself. Like, I literally don't know what to do. I felt like I didn't know how to write lyrics. I didn't know how to anything. He goes, you write poetry, right? I said, oh, shit, you're right. That's correct. I do. So we got started with some music, and Kevin Christian was very encouraging. So he got me into the performance aspect. I was so scared of the mic. I used to just jump like that. Every time I was near a microphone, and he put me in an artist boot camp, so to speak. Mm-hmm. He was like, all right, no, I'm making you look at yourself. I'm making you look at other people. And it wasn't until I started to perform my own songs and not just, other songs by other people, which amazing. But once I did that, I realized there were women who identified with my story. There were men who identified with my story. There were they, them, everyone identified with the story that I had, and I didn't believe that could exist. It was really cool.
That's beautiful.
I'm glad that you got out of that too, because that's really common amongst artists is the aspect of performing live like freaks the shit out of people.
I mean, anxiety shit's real.
That's what started. Like I don't know if you know the what was his name? Avicii was the
Avicii. Yeah.
So he killed himself. I mean, out of depression, out of his drinking problem and stuff like that. But his drinking problem started because he was so afraid to perform on stage that he would get loaded every time he'd perform.
That actually used to be my vice. Yeah. So like this. I finally, for the first time in my life, I really love me.
That's awesome.
I super duper fucking love me.
That's great to hear. I like that. That's great.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever gotten to that point, and I couldn't get to that point before because, let me just straight up say, I love beer and wine, okay? Mm-hmm. I love both, and I really love Dominican rum. I don't know what it is. Like the 151 proof from, like, New York City you can't get here. Oh, man. Puerto Rican and Dominican rum from out there is, oh, my gosh, so good. You don't even want to know. But I had gotten to a point where I was, I actually have... So I have bipolar disorder, and I'm pretty open about it, especially because I teach as well, violin, voice, and piano, and most of my kids struggle with ADHD or bipolar disorder or anxiety. And it's the most interesting thing to see yourself in, like, basically little versions of you and going, oh, I remember those times. I remember that. And so for a while with that and not understanding how to process my emotions in a healthy way, mm-hmm. I would drink. I would smoke to ridiculous points. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like, oh, I'm super addicted, but it was like, hey, you're avoiding you.
Yep. Yeah. You're speaking to someone that you're like, are you telling my story? I get it.
Yeah, we all.
Yeah, we've all been here.
We've been there.
Yeah. So I kind of, I had started on a journey. I think it might have been the end of 2018. It was December 2018. And I was busy doing those things and like totally human band-aiding with someone I definitely didn't need to date at the time. And, cause that can be a vice too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. 1000%.
So I sort of remember looking up and going, this ain't it. Like, this can't be it. There are a lot of things that you're not facing. I didn't realize I hadn't grieved so many different things in my life because I was so busy just like, all right, I just need to keep going. Like, if I stop now, then the world might fall apart. Mm-hmm. Lo and behold, the world actually didn't fall apart, and I needed to fall apart to be put back together the right way.
Yep. I'm with you on that too. Like, avoidance is like such a big thing. Like, when things are at the worst is when I usually try to stay the busiest because I'm like, oh, let me just do a million things so I don't have to think and face the problems that are going on right now in my head.
Especially like that. 2018 was an interesting year. It's funny you mentioned December 2018 because that's when I had a breakdown around that time as well. Because that's when my mom passed away, like in January.
Wow.
Neil, you were part of all this, so we started the podcast around September. So. That happened in January, and then I was like traveling a lot, just kind of keep my mind off of it. I went to LA, I went to New Orleans, I went trying to do that, and then I was like, all right, let me work on some music stuff. So I put out "Be Careful, Be Safe" in October. It's kind of like a tribute to my mom, And then I was still traveling a little bit. I went to Denver and I went to Asheville for some Beats and Brews stuff. And then around like November, December-ish, and I was like, dude, I avoided just grieving. Right? And it just like all caught up with you at once. So I get it. Like it's rough.
1,000,000%. Because I wasn't just, it was like the relationship that I had been in, it wasn't, there were multiple relationships that I just kept going into that were not good for me. And the one that was 9.5 years, I didn't properly grieve that. I was like, that was basically a divorce, kid. Like, you realize that, right? Like, that was a divorce. And then, but I'm grateful that I'm at the point of my life that I am now, because I think that now I'm able to grieve differently in a healthy way. It's difficult, nonetheless, because this year, those of us who are at the Living Room, we lost an incredible friend, probably a friend I had since I was like for 15 years. And his name was Gerard Rayford, J. Tesla, R.I.P. And he passed away due to COVID.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. And that was probably, besides my grandma, who was like my mom basically in a way and raised me, that was the hardest thing. And I was grateful that I didn't have all my old vices, because I probably would have self-destructed.
I love that you're a teacher as well too, and then how you said that you like see like you see yourself like in the kids that you teach and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, so you kind of give like this insight. You're kind of like the big homie to these kids, if you want to think of it like that. Like if you really think about like, hey, I did all this shit. I did all this, like, you know, like, stuff, fucked up shit. I'm kind of here just so to guide you in a way that you don't go the route I did.
Yes.
So that's why I love and respect that so much. Like, it's like your way of, like, a second chance almost.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yes, 1,000%. And it's so interesting because I've taught at music schools that were actually out this way in Canton and whatnot at Grosse Pointe Music Academy with the Canton branch. And then I've also taught at, like, a nonprofit in Southwest Detroit. And the kids are all dealing with different things, but in different ways. And I've noticed it. Like, the kids in Southwest, like, I never could have imagined, you know, I had one girl, sorry, it's getting a little dark.
No, it's
that's been the theme of this episode, unfortunately. Before you got here, we were talking about
this is a conversation that we've been having in the last few weeks, too, so I know it's
welcome transparency.
Tell your story. We want to hear
it. There was a young girl, and she was from Southwest. And when I first got there, she was cunning, and I knew because I recognized, and I was once that girl, and I remembered, and I looked at her. So I said, hey, I want you to come with me and just talk to me for a minute. It wasn't, you know, I didn't want to reprimand her. I wasn't doing any of those things, but I just wanted to hear what was going on. So I said, all right, so this is coming from someone who used to do this, okay? I was like, I just want to know, what is it that you're trying to process that doesn't seem to be coming out right now? And if you can't say it, I want you to just scream. Just yell in this hallway. And so she just yelled for like a solid 3 minutes. And then she looked at me, she started crying. She said, thanks, miss. I really needed that. And I said, you know what? I get that. Me too sometimes. And I said, Pinky, promise me that you won't cut yourself anymore. And I will stay and teach here until you graduate from high school. And she said, you promise? And I said, I promise. I just said, Pinky promised. So Pinky promised, and she was just about to graduate. And they sent her father back to Mexico. And after 4 years of not cutting, she cut. And I saw the 2 cuts, and we talked, and I found out that's what happened with her dad. And I said, look at me. I was like, that's not what he wants you to do. He's in Mexico right now, but he wants you to graduate. He wants you to be healthy. Like, don't for a second let anything else rob you of your joy. Because this is not okay. And she said, I know, miss. She said, and I said, if you don't do it again, I will be at your graduation. She didn't do it again.
That's
I
awesome.
went to her graduation at Kobo.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
I love that it had a happy ending. So
yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, it's also awesome that, you know, that's what, I mean, that's, we don't talk about how the importance of teachers enough, I don't think, because like it's just to have that, you know, to know that someone else has gone through that and someone else has figured out a way to process it and, you know, can offer advice and that's interested in music as well. You know, you can find common ground with someone else. And, you know, that's another thing too that we've been talking about, and I'm not happy that bad and tragic things have happened to you in your life.
Yeah.
But it most certainly loads the clip for content when it comes to your creative outlet and making music.
We've had this whole discussion.
It's been like the theme of the last month.
We had a whole hour conversation about why is like sad music the best music, and I hate that we